All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, The Bella Gamer, with my co-host Glue Boy.
Hello.
And I don't know why I was just about to say it's been a minute. I don't think it has been a minute.
No, you just had a busy day.
Well,
If
and I
anything,
think we did it last week.
we did it last. No, we did not do it last week
Did we
because
not
I
do it
was
last
at
week?
your house physically.
Oh, right. Okay, so it has been a little bit. Okay. All
It's
right.
been a little bit for Table Talk. For us in like specifically, no, it's actually been sooner than normal.
Well, yeah, of course. I'm talking to the audience.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, if you are unaware, I got married this last weekend. Yay! It's been
It was very cool.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great weekend, and yeah, everything. And we've done all the things. We don't need to worry about anything else as far as me and my wife now. So, and I can actually say wife without having any kind of special stipulations or anything, because we've been calling
Yeah.
each other that forever now. But now it's like official. Oh, I need to flip my camera again because my mic is also back, which is probably what everyone would probably care more about, honestly.
It is good that you just got it back in general.
Yeah. I mean they just ended up sending me a new mic. So, whatever works, I suppose. But yeah, it's honestly things are going mostly good. So here's a story. Here's my small talk for the day. We just got back from driving home, or got back driving home from my grandparents' place because I wanted my grandparents to meet my daughter. They're very, very old, and so this was like one of the few chances that we were probably gonna get. And a deer ran into our car on the freeway. So presumably the deer is alive. It ran away. So, but the car, the driver's side door is like ruined. It doesn't work anymore. Barely opens. And then like a little bit of chassis damage. But other than that, like the car runs perfectly fine. But the problem is it only has a key lock on the driver's side. So we can no longer lock that car.
Yeah, which that is quite rough.
Well, that's not true. We can lock the car. We just can never unlock it again if it becomes locked and all the doors are shut. So, yeah.
That's something at least.
And you also can't open that door from the outside. So, yeah.
That's just a fun extra scuffed car.
We don't know what we're going to do. So, that is unfortunately how my weekend has ended. But beyond my pains, Alex, what's been up with you?
I mean, other than just coming back from your wedding, which are now even harder, like I need to go up there, if anything, because it was so nice having a good few days with little to no allergies.
Yeah.
It was great. And the moment we got back to Ellensburg, we went out a little bit, and then I was dead, just hit again. And it's so fun. I'm happy that in a few weeks I got a doctor's appointment to do a funneled re-up on Adderall meds, because you got to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask him if allergy shots are a thing I can do that day. I would like to be able to work and then like come home and not feel like legitimately sick.
Yeah.
That's how it's hitting every time. It feels like I'm getting a cold every day. And even more fun, which isn't the fault of like the things going on. So for people that don't know, like I literally just said, you got to go every 3 months if you got Adderall prescription. That's how it gets refilled. It's a restricted chemical. So every 3 months you got to go get a checkup. Mine takes like 10 minutes. It's super quick. However, the actual like time limit of it was apparently the Thursday that we drove over. That was like the day it had to be done or before. Uh, in my town, getting something quickly is kind of hard for like anything medical. So I put it in a good few weeks later. The week after was like, oh, I'm also busy that week. I got a dentist appointment, things like that. So I am going to get a refill of Adderall soon. They had to make an emergency provision just to give me the things I need, but I might just be without it for a couple days. So that'll be fun. Which is even rougher because I have started editing my next video, which I'm hoping to get out this weekend. And I'm happy I took the break, I'll be honest, because I recorded it, and you have those recordings where you're just like, oh, I feel like I did well. I didn't stumble a lot. The flow was really nice. It was one of the biggest examples where I write out a whole script and then I change the I guess the order and the format of it on the fly, and I think for the better. I like how it's shaping out. And I hope I can have the motivation to do it the next day or two if I do not get my prescription refilled.
Yeah. Hopefully, for your sake, anyway.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be. It's good if I don't get it refilled. I might try to work on it and then spend at least an hour or two staring blankly at my monitor. That's sometimes the rut I get into. Where I'm like, I should be working. I don't want to. I should be working. I just stare for like an hour.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, speaking on the same line as that, I should be working on some videos here. Hopefully soon. We'll see. I had a really great opportunity show up that I can't talk about because I'm under an NDA. So
always fun.
Yeah. So that being the case, we'll see how that goes, but I should have a bunch of content to work on. So if that is the case, yippee. Now I just gotta figure out how to do all this with a baby, which, you know, is always my challenge. It's never different. That is just the thing. So that's going to be really fun. And it also kind of leads into just the topic for today's video. Or I guess chat, not video. Which this is going to be a big summer for tabletop, actually. Like, bigger than I think a lot of people realize.
We're having a lot of stuff drop and like is dropping very soon, or like stuff that's just out. I mean, Daggerheart already dropped, apparently.
Yeah, but Daggerheart's been out for a couple weeks now and released at the end of May. So there's that. But even bigger than that, this summer, with all this stuff dropping and everything, all the kids who are going to school are not going to be going to school for the next few months, right? And D&D has dropped the ball so hard. I imagine that this summer, a lot of kids in, you know, through elementary school to high school are going to be trying new tabletops, especially with all the hubbub going on with like Daggerheart and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And in addition, many D&D content creators are now just talking Daggerheart instead.
It makes sense that like that's a good pivot point, to be honest.
Yeah,
because like it's related, and you're gonna have a lot of the audience that just already likes Critical Role, so they're gonna be like, oh, Critical Role thing, and it's recognizably D&D.
Yeah. So this summer is going to be absolutely huge for tabletop because this is the like. And this summer is crazy for so many reasons. Video games have been insane this year already.
The massive like showcases we had for like the past couple days. I mean, yeah. I'm hyped because Resident Evil 9 sounds and looks really cool. Just anytime Capcom kind of just gets involved, I get really interested. I like me Capcom, and I like some parts of Sega.
Yeah.
Just no Sonic. I just don't care about Sonic. But like, it's pretty cool. We've had some fun drops. One sleeper hit. I hope people keep on their radar. Is a game created by a bunch of ex CD Projekt Red devs, the ones who I think they worked on The Witcher 2, or also Witcher, like part of Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm.
It is I think The Curse of the Daywalker is what it's called. The Blood of the Dawnwalker. I was very close. It is a very non-linear open world game with really sick looking combat where you are playing a Dawnwalker vampire.
Yeah.
And it looks sick. The combat looks really good. They keep talking about like the story and the stuff they've shown where like you can do the story and like progress certain stuff without even meeting certain players and factions. The world reacts to everything you do. Like a lot of that, like a good open world game. And it also lets you like, all right, which side do you want to build harder in? Do you want to be more human or do you want to be more vampire? It's a good taster for Vampire Masquerade Bloodline, which I hope is good. But if it's not, at least we'll have one good vampire RPG.
Fair. And I should also make a mention, if by chance you're hearing like Alex or something through my mic, I apologize. I got my mic back literally 2 days ago, and yesterday I was busy, so I haven't had a chance to like properly do all the audio work.
Yeah, there's a lot of fiddling that like you got to do with the new mic.
Yeah, so I am working on that. So I apologize if you guys notice it though. Let me know if it's a particularly like audible, and then I will figure it out. But good, thank you, honey. I apologize, or I appreciate that. So yeah, people are talking, and Paizo has been doing what Paizo does best, which is just good content. They just keep making great content. They got Battlecry coming out soon. They have the Starfinder 2e coming out soon. And they've been talking about their new dragon book, which is really cool. And more dragons, a whole book about dragons. It's pretty awesome. And then we have Daggerheart coming out and Critical Role starting their new campaign, which was going to be in Daggerheart. I don't know why anyone thought anything different or even had a question of it. The Age of Umbra, I think is what it's called. I watched like 60% of the first episode. And to be fair, that's mostly just because I'm busy, and doing anything for more than so much time, or, you know, at a time is very hard with a baby in general. So
yeah, I'm surprised that there even might have been people being like, they're not gonna jump to Daggerheart. Why else would they make it? Or even like, if it's not an attempt to step away from D&D, like, why wouldn't they have a big campaign set in it so they can promote it?
Right.
That's just business sense.
Which actually, real quick, I'm gonna hop onto YouTube here. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. God damn it, the mouse was hovered over one of the options. All right. Welcome to Age of Umbra episode 1 and episode 2. So episode 1, 10 days ago, 839,000 views. Episode 2, 3 days ago, 231,000 views, which doesn't sound like a lot on like a YouTube spectrum, but that's actually huge for a live play spectrum. And it does seem like, you know, over the course of the week, people are going to watch like the live play. So when you compare that like, to any of like their old campaigns.
And the first episode is always going to be like the most popular. The big tell is going to be, does it carry over to like 2, 3, 4, 5, like past what they already have?
Yeah. So
and like makes sense if it's because different game, it's gonna at least be in the radar people who watch Critical Role stuff.
Yep.
But if they're going strictly like Critical Role, the algorithm might be like, it's different. They don't want it. But I imagine it's gonna like grow over time and do well.
So, this summer I think is going to be actually pretty big for tabletop in general, because this is the summer where all the normal, performers are doing their best. And of course, WotC and D&D they got nothing. I don't know what's going on with D&D right now. That's the most bizarre thing, right? The biggest name in tabletop, and just by grace of being somewhat related to like in tabletop, I don't know what they're actually doing right now.
Yeah, it is a little awkward of like, what are they working on? What are they making? I did see, I think they're doing an Unearthed Arcana, like something dropped. I'm looking to see if I can find it.
And that's, to be fair, right? That's not new. Like, I would hear about any of the new books like a month or two after they release, I never really knew much about what was coming out on the horizon for D&D, but usually after something had released, I usually hear something about it.
Oh, okay. So apparently, they 2 weeks ago now have a new Unearthed Arcana for a class, and it's for the Scion.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
And like maybe it's because the two old heads left, so you know how they felt about classes,
right? Yeah,
but that's something. It's gonna be a spellcaster. Like, I don't know how else you do psionics without just like, all right, it's different spells, I guess.
Oh yeah, and so the Artificer is coming out. What? Why did the page break? Okay, weird. Which I guess is going to have the new Artificer, or the Artificer, maybe? Yes, apparently. Okay, so I do like how on D&D Beyond, when you are looking at the book's like order page, at the bottom you will see all the actual things you're getting in the book.
That's a good thing to do.
I do think that's pretty cool, actually. Legit. When? Oh, August 19th is when it's coming out. So Artificer isn't even out. Artificer, which was in the 2014 D&D, is now coming out almost a year later after the book initially dropped.
So, okay, I'm trying to see. Yeah, I got the Scion PDF. I'm like skimming through it to see what is I guess unique and different to it. You know what? I'll give them a kudos for this. I think they have fun little like, essentially they're free cantrip abilities you're just getting access to for being psychic.
Yeah.
Like you get as a bonus action, you get to you have an energy dice, like a resource that you're also working for these special abilities. You can push or pull something, like a person, up to a number of feet straight away, yourself equal to 5 times the number you roll. Okay, so you get a funny push or pull, and also telepathy, range of 5 feet. That as a bonus action in a dice roll, you can expand it by that much feet, times 10. And then you have psionic modes, attack mode and defense mode, which, oh. Okay, yeah, if you're in defense mode, if you could spend one of your dice to just automatically succeed a wisdom, charisma, or intelligence save. I'll say, like, I like seeing a little bit of D&D stuff where I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. It's a fun idea.
And yes, Morgan, I'm aware it didn't come out in the 2014 book. I'm referring to 2014 as that edition of 5e in contrast to 2025 or 2024.
And they also have a form of the warlock. What are they? Those like little warlock upgrades you get.
Oh,
like your patron gifts, patron boots.
No, that's. Is it boons? I thought what? Aren't you referring to that like?
Yeah, where you can like get a free like mage armor, like
the talents,
yeah, those talents. These are here.
Eldritch invocations or something like
yeah,
that?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's those based on what type of stuff. Also based on spell schools. Then there's the 4 subclasses with it of the Metamorph, the Psi Warper, the Psychonetic, and the last one is the Telepath. I got it. Okay, I do have to say, I think this is essentially like a melding of like Wizard and Warlock, but I like seeing like at least something be iterated. Like, I mean, this seems pretty cool.
Yeah, the point I was making earlier was Artificer had fully released, and it wasn't even 3 years or whatever after the original book came out. It was like 7 or 8. It was a while. It was not an Ars Arcana for ages before it got released in an official book. But yeah, it was in the game at the very least, the only additional class they ever added in the original edition, and then they didn't even put it in 2024, and now it's coming out a whole year later. Granted, the book looks cool. It does look interesting. It doesn't make it any less silly, but
I think it's going to be so funny if the Artificer drops and there's literally no changes from its like 5th edition version. I think that'd be very funny.
Well, it doesn't matter because there's not going to be enough changes to warrant the extra R&D time.
True.
So, you know. Also, this book is like 118 pages, which is pretty small for a rule book.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
That's a little like flatty book. So, but yeah, that's the thing, right? I didn't know about this thing in D&D, which honestly looks like an interesting book, without going onto their webpage to find it. And D&D does not have to do they don't have to do anything to get their shit promoted, right? They just have to get the YouTubers to talk about it.
Exactly. I found out because I saw people tweeting about it, like, "Hey, I'm making a video on this." That's how I learned it existed.
You mean about the Scion?
Yeah, the Scion.
I'm talking about the new book that's coming out.
This is the first I've heard of it, and technically that counts for your point.
So,
I'm being told by a YouTuber.
Like, it's insane. So this summer, new people should be just filling into the hobby in places where they weren't before. They should be checking out other games. They should be trying out what else is on the talk. I won't say most. I don't know this for sure. Mostly because I just don't follow D&D YouTubers that closely. But I do know a few D&D YouTubers are just talking about other games, and many of them are already talking about Daggerheart and what Daggerheart is doing and bringing in. And this is, by the way, don't get it twisted, this is not me overly endorsing Daggerheart to be the D&D killer. I think Daggerheart is cool. Don't get me wrong. I think it's interesting. I like a lot of what they're doing with it. I wish it was more, divorced from D&D. It's just different D&D. But whatever.
It's different D&D, which appeals to people. It doesn't appeal to us. Like, it's one of those
wouldn't appeal to us because we did enjoy what we played of it. And
we did. But like, if you hear the phrase, "Oh, it's really like D&D," you're like,
yeah, that's definitely a turn off for us.
That's the part. Where like there are the bunch of people out there that hear that and they're like, "Oh, yeah, hell yeah!" Which, power to them. At least I also believe they're getting a cool game out of it. Yeah. So like, I'll take it. But I agree.
But like, I think if I was to nominate a replacement for D&D, I'd probably still say Daggerheart, honestly. Now that I think about it, honestly. Because
I'd like it to be something like Pathfinder, but
I
I
would,
understand that Daggerheart would appeal to a lot of more people.
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? I would love for it to be Pathfinder, right? If the whole tabletop community rallied around Pathfinder and Pathfinder got huge or more huge, I would be happy. Don't get me wrong. But when I think about the casual tabletop audience, I don't think they would enjoy Pathfinder as much. Like, Pathfinder is when you really want to play a more strategic version of D&D. You know, like, when you're thinking, man, I want to play D&D, but I wish it was a better game, that's Pathfinder.
Yeah, and it also is interesting because like I've talked to people about this, where like I've brought up, here's what I like about Pathfinder, and like mainly it's the fact that, oh yeah, there's rules for things, there's like structure there, it's crunchy like 100%. There's like there's more rules, but the idea that it's as insanely complicated as people put out to be is it's a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But like especially for second edition, because I know a lot of it is first edition baggage. And then I've had people like respond to that with like, well, that kind of the reasons I don't like Pathfinder and I like D&D, because there's just a subsect of people that like the idea of not having a rule in place, so they get to come up with something themselves, coming up with it at the table, which I personally don't like understand, but it is like an opinion I've heard a lot from people in this topic of like they like the lack of structure because then they get to freeball it.
I think, yeah, Cosmere. We'll talk about Cosmere because Cosmere is also coming out here soon.
Oh yeah,
and I'm super hyped about that. But I just know also I'm going to talk about it forever. So, I don't think it's people want to make up rules. I think people don't want to deal with more rules. I think is the problem. I think people are like, I like the D&D experience, and I like how D&D doesn't force me to learn any more than like what's necessary, and thus I can make rules if I want to. That's kind
of... Only bit I'd counter is like, unless I have to verify their own games, because that's just verbatim what they've told me, is if something comes up, they don't have to, like, they get to come up with it on the fly instead of, all right, let me open the rule book, let me flip to this thing, let me rule check constantly, which I understand.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah.
They like the idea that they can just make up what they want because it's not a rule they have to look up.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what I was saying was, it's not that they like making up new rules. They just don't want to look up rules for minutia things in their opinion or whatever, you know? And so,
which I sympathize with that and agree to an extent. I like there to be a framework to build from things, but there is the other part of me that does like, if that thing comes up and then it's like, all right, let's spend 5 minutes of rule arbitrating this,
right.
Or you can come up with like a thing on the fly and be like, you know what, there might be a thing for this, whatever, let's keep a game flow and just, this is how we do it. And then if you learn later, oh, I found out how we can actually do that in the rules, sick. Because I'm really big on the idea of just like, let's keep game flow going, because I think it feels better and it's fun, and I zone out for the 10 minutes of rule arbitrations. Yeah. But like in new games, you got to do that, especially if you're testing things and trying to work with it. For a game you've spent years playing, like over time, doing that is harder and harder and harder.
Yeah, and I do gotta admit, the first few times I played Pathfinder, it was a lot of looking up rules. To be fair,
it's a lot.
Their core book also was just not as well organized as the remaster version.
100%. I think we just didn't know about Archive of Nethys.
And that was also kind of a factor early on. Archive of Nethys does just curve it really easy for Pathfinder, so, you know. But people don't know it exists because it's not mentioned anywhere in the book, so why would they? So, you know, I feel like more game companies should just have online wikis, essentially, that Agreed. They talk about. It's crazy to me because Lancer does mention CompCon, but a lot of people don't know about CompCon still.
I find that crazy because, like, in every conversation about Lancer, like, CompCon is thrown around, like, a lot. Definitely for that reason, I guess. If people just don't know it exists. But it is like the most useful tool ever.
Yeah.
It's so useful, and it keeps up the aspect that like playing Lancer is free. Running it is the only part that can cost you money.
Yeah.
All the player facing rules super free, and that's how you get people invested. If you're like, hey, we got a cool online tool we're partnered with and like support, and all of the cool character creation things are free. Hey, build makers, harass your friends endlessly because you made a new mech. Like what? Like, that's just a great way to do it. Also, yeah, in your area, only casual gamers play D&D. Like, I think you could still, I don't know, casual gamer. You could probably be like a hardcore gamer, so like D&D. The part I always will disagree with if people do it is the idea of like, I won't touch it. It is a new thing. It's like, no, you should at least try it. If we're doing a one shot, you should like at least give it the time of day, like have fun with it. Because I recommend it to a lot of GMs too. I think you genuinely, if you have that want to get better at GMing, I think playing different tabletop games is a good idea. Well, I think just seeing how different things work, like, helps broaden how to do stuff.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So, this is, I think, a point of view that a lot of people in the tabletop space have forgotten exists because it doesn't really pertain to them anymore. The first time you ever get like into a game like Call of Duty or like an MMO or something, imagine you are like effectively a week into playing Call of Duty, and then everyone around you is like, hey, you should try this shooter, hey, you should try this shooter, hey, you should try this shooter, you know, and you're just like, I'm just enjoying this game, I'm just trying this out, I don't even know if I'm gonna want to do this anymore. And you know, like, that's the thing with tabletop is tabletop, you have to expand that to months because you only play for so many hours a week, maybe, you know, even less so for a lot of people. So a lot of those people who are casuals are kind of still in that stage of like, I'm just trying this out, you know. We've only been coming here for a few weeks, like we haven't even done anything right. So it makes a lot of sense when you're first getting into the hobby that you don't want to just like super diversify. And and it's like what Mark in here is saying is like, when you have a regular person, when someone actually does like the thing and do it more, they're definitely usually a lot more open, especially when it's like doing one shots, trying out new things. Like, if you are talking to someone who actually does enjoy tabletop and want to participate in tabletop more, they're a lot more open to like taking a one shot into like a different system. But there is also the long campaignitis that infects a lot of people, which is they don't want to start a new character unless they're playing a 3-year game.
Yeah, and like the other aspect I can definitely see being a factor, because I know this hits with at least the wargaming sphere that I work with and I hang out with. There is just the aspect of like a lot of casual players where they just don't have the physical time of the day to partake in like a hobby, and it comes to like where they can go to the store and play a game. They might get a couple days every month to like do it outside of work and family. And then when it comes to it, it's like, do you want to play the thing you already know you like, or possibly waste one of those days playing a game you end up hating? Like that is the dilemma for some people.
Spending one of those days just learning how to even make a character and like making characters, because making characters takes a long time in a lot of games.
You spend a whole day doing nothing, and then you haven't played it, and you're thinking like, I could have just done the thing I enjoy.
Yeah.
Which I've been there. I've been there for different games, like video games, like stuff like that. And so there's that aspect. Just us tabletop fans, we got the time and the passion to invest in it.
Yeah.
And I'll understand that aspect. It's always the part, if you have the time and you're really invested in the hobby, and then you're actively just being like, nope, not touching that. It's new, it's different, and it's probably bad. It's like, you should probably try new things, man. Like, you're not 12 anymore.
Yeah. And like that's the thing that's hard to communicate. and people are just terrible at communicating it because, right? It's like you go to your favorite restaurant, you always order the same meal because it's like, why would I go to the restaurant otherwise? That's where I like my favorite meal. And so it's just like, you know, I only get to play this every so often. Why would I play anything else? I'm already having fun.
Yeah, and why would I go to a restaurant, spend, I don't know, $20-$30 on a meal, and I could order my favorite meal that just slaps every time, or I could try a new thing, probably be disappointed, and now be out $30.
Yeah, or just,
Like,
you know, the time I've taken to do the thing I want to do was less enjoyable overall than I was hoping for because I already found my favorite thing. So, you know, like every time I see someone mention like, oh, the casuals, they don't like anything other than D&D. It's just like you have to understand that tabletop is such a time consuming hobby that like there are for sure people who've been playing D&D for like a couple years now. They're in like a regular campaign who definitely should try something else at this point in time for sure. But like a casual enjoyer is someone who plays maybe once or twice a month, in which case, like, who cares if they play any other type of game or try any other type of game? They're only going to try that one other game once or twice a month. You know, they're not doing anything really. So, you know, D&D is there because it is accessible. It is very easy to get into because not only do people already understand the ideas of fantasy classes because they just permeate everything, but because D&D is recognizable and thus it must be good because a lot of people know about it. You know, it's the standard. It's the reason why people are more likely to buy something called Band-Aid rather than adhesive strips or, you know, whatever, you know, adhesive bandages or medical bandage or whatever, you know, is because that was like everyone knows what a Band-Aid is. So it's like everyone knows what D&D is. And it is up to content creators and influencers to make other tabletop games kind of shine. Because literally, that's just the world we live in today. You know how many video games would never have been, you know, played or played to the degree that they were if it wasn't for content creators? Five Nights at Freddy's would not
be a series.
Would never be something huge if it wasn't for content creators. So, like, we can be mad because D&D is the most forward facing, or we can just, you know, try to get other content creators to actually talk about something other than Dungeons and Dragons and make it more about tabletop itself rather than about D&D, you know. So that's where I stand on everything. That's why here on Bad Luck Gamer, I don't almost never talk about D&D unless I'm shitting on it, to be fair. But I also try not to talk about one game specifically. I try to talk about a lot of games, you know.
Yeah.
And the hobby in general.
It is it's that idea with influencers. It's like essentially all really YouTubers, streamers, people on Twitter, like wherever, all they're really doing is it's just a much wider shotgun blast of word of mouth marketing. Yeah. It's like there's a lot of times like you walk into a game store, you see some people playing it, maybe you approach, or you're chatting with friends and they're introducing you to something cool. I've introduced Lancer to like people in a game store, on Discord, just like streaming and showing off CompCon, where I'm just like, look at these cool ass mechs, and they're like, oh my god, I got to get into this. It's the same thing, just on a wider scale.
Yeah, and that's also the thing, right? If there's all these people who are refusing to play anything other than D&D, well, one, they're probably not going to listen to any rando who just says play Pathfinder, right? They're going to listen to close friends or influencers or whatever. So, you know, we have to talk positively about our game, and we have to not talk negatively about D&D, because otherwise, like, the number one way to invoke tribalism in literally anyone is to compare or contrast one thing to another thing.
It's so hard, though.
I know.
The game's bad.
I know. And to be fair, I'm not the best at it on this channel. I try, but like, you know, I sometimes just say it for the people who are on this side of the fence anyway. Sometimes we just have our own jokes and our own things that we tell each other, you know. If I'm honestly trying to convert someone from D&D to Pathfinder or some other tabletop game, I'm not going to say D&D is bad, try this other game. I'm going to be like...
Yeah, it's a different conversation.
I'm going to be like, Pathfinder's insane. Magus can do some really, really cool shit, and they get to just have a nuke in their pocket. Like, it's really cool. Or Exemplar just gets to create their own story over the course of their adventure. They add, like, different monikers to their name over the course of an adventure. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, and at the end of the day, it's just reading the room.
Yeah.
If you're in an environment like this where it's mainly just Pathfinder or like other game fans, like that's a thing you can make. Because I've been in those discussions. I've talked to there's a great conversation I had with a guy who's like his work creatively. He's a great writer. He's a cool DM from everything I've heard. And we had a serious chat about like in a game store, which is like, hey, like you prefer D&D, and like you've said you've tried Pathfinder 2e and didn't like it. Like let's chat, because I was curious, and we were just exchanging our opinions on stuff. And it's just when you're like face to face with like a human being talking, you're like, yeah, this is how you can kind of convince somebody a thing could be cool, and expand your mind of like, why does this person like a thing I don't? That is just a personal thing for me. I am always fascinated with the pure concept of like one person can love a thing and another person can hate it for the exact same reasons.
Yeah.
I always like hashing that out, because I want to know opinions, and especially contrary opinions, and see like where we differ, where we agree. I think it's fun.
And I just love tabletop. And so like I want to know why people like certain things in tabletop. Like, what are the reasons? Especially now that we're designing, I'm designing my own game, the 333. Like, which, by the way, we recently, last episode, we just tested combat. And it did really, really well. And I'm super happy with how it came out overall. The game just works. And that's such a great feeling. Definitely some things to hammer out. But... like, all things in consideration, the game can only get better, and the combat was really fun. So that's a big win.
Yeah.
Speaking on big wins as well, Cosmere RPG comes out next month around the 20 or towards the end of the month, something like that. And the Cosmere RPG, I think, is not going to be huge necessarily. It might be a part of the hugeness that is what's happening to tabletop, but it's not going to be massive, because let's be real honest, unless you are already in the know of what the Cosmere is, especially the Stormlight Archives, the book just has some people on it, one wearing some kind of cool armor, fantasy looking armor, and the terrain just looks barren. Barren and uninteresting for the most part. Like, especially with the overall look of the people, like, I have to say some of the design choices for Cosmere's like character designs has the kind of echoes of like 80s and 90s like off-brand fantasy appeal. Like, the characters look very human.
Yeah, I mean, mainly because they are.
They are human, yes, but like that's the thing, right? And like many of the cool scenes are arid land and spiky ground, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And
it is if somebody is into the aesthetic of like, I guess the idea is like a more grounded fantasy design, but like there's the difference, I think, when you're looking at like designing a game and designing the art for a game, where you're comparing like the Stormlight characters to the Pathfinder iconics. Like the iconics are designed to jump out at you and personify a class.
Yep.
And like meanwhile, the Cosmere characters are characters from a book that are then like have a look that is commissioned to then like recreate the descriptions. Like it's the different purpose, and it's what happens when you make a game based off of a like an existing property. Because like you could take a wildly different art style and go like, all right, let's jump up these designs to be eye-catching like tabletop stuff. But then you're turning away all the people who are like, that's not what Kaladin looks like. That's not what Shallan. Like you're turning away the book fans. So it's like there's a balance to it. There's a hard balance. Because like I, as a giant book fan, am excited to see everything drawn out, and like now I can put a picture to the descriptions I've read. But like a person who has no idea about the Cosmere and hasn't read it isn't going to get the same appeal.
Yeah, exactly. And like the enemies are appearing on these book covers as well. They just look like crab people. Red shell dungeness crab people. Like I don't look at any of these characters really and think, ooh, I want to play that class. I think they're doing something kind of interesting. Like, let me grab some images for stream here. And this is in no way me saying Cosmere is going to be terrible or anything like that. It's more just a commentary on why I think the Cosmere stuff is just not going to hit the market the way like a lot of people are hoping for. Because let's see here. I'll leave that one. Let's do, nope, never mind. I do need that one. Where do I? No, I did. Yeah. Okay. Change the ick counter for Alex's sick Nurgle counter to something else.
I think, if anything, the one that will hit it harder is maybe the Mistborn setting.
Mistborn, I think, has a better fantasy appeal, to be honest.
It's like it has a big kind of flashy, like cool style of. Granted, it's going to be Era 2, so it's like steampunk, Wild West. But the thing that helps with Mistborn is that there are like different playable races. Like you have the Khandra, the anything involving Inquisitors. You have the other group that are essentially kind of like ogres, trolls. But like the Khandra are interesting because the one art we have of it is like a transparent person where like you can see their bones and organs and they're just like translucent green, and you're just like, oh shit, what are they about? Like Stormlight doesn't have that as hard.
Yeah.
At most, I look at a big dude in armor like punching a horde of people, and I'm like, I do want to do that.
Yeah.
That sounds fun to play.
Like, so here's like the main one that's gonna be on the core book, I believe. Which you have guy with spear, girl with sword and magic, maybe, and dude in armor with wavy sword. They have power armor and insect people. Yeah, and this is even not the best form of power armor. And I also want to comment as well. Like, I guess, is this Renarin?
That's Adolin.
No, because Adolin doesn't have the blue armor.
No, that is Adolin. Like that is Adolin's canon design.
Is it? Because Adolin doesn't have the blue armor though. He has gray.
Let me find. I mean, if you look up Adolin in a shard plate, every picture is blue.
That's so weird because he doesn't wear blue shard plate. Because blue shard plate was the Colin blue. That was Dalinar's, and then he ended up giving it to Renarin afterwards.
It's I mean, mainly it seems like that's the canon color they picked for him because like the official figure has him in blue.
Oh wait, no, I think I'm getting confused. I think Dalinar didn't have blue. I think he had the gray
No.
because he didn't paint
He
it.
had the gray, and I don't know. I don't think he gave his shard plate to Renarin. I
He
think
did.
he gave one he got. Like he grabbed it.
No, it got one back from who ended up. Or he got,
okay, yeah.
He got it back from who had it without giving spoilers.
Yeah, without spoilers. And I mean, the main other thing is Renarin just didn't wear it a lot.
No, he didn't.
He didn't. Granted, he had a solid reason not
because
to.
my instinct was to say that would be Adolin because he's
the three,
one of the three. But also, like, I didn't think he had blue. I still don't think he has blue. Does he?
I'd have to dig through the book descriptions again, but it's just if you look up any picture of Adolin, it's blue armor. That's the one of him punching all the Parshanda. Yeah, that's the.
It must be because, like, the nerds of the Cosmere are definitely not going to get that kind of information wrong. So maybe I'm wrong.
I'd have to dig through the Coppermind, which is such a good wiki. Like, I like how they organize and actually source everything. What an accurate wiki. That's rare to say.
Yeah. Now, this image here, I will say, does make me more interested because this looks like power armor, which is kind of cool.
It looks like the Doom art. That's what gets it. It's that Doom 2016 art where you have that inherent idea of, like, if you are the person who likes playing a fighter, you're like, I want to do that. That looks sick.
But, like, overall, the background, the terrain, jagged, rocky, crab people, not very interesting nor diverse, really. Dude in power armor, which isn't bad as an individual image. But then if we pull up this next image here of another set of, like, characters that you're supposed to essentially, like, be a representative of what you should be able to play or whatever. You see girl with glowing sword, guy with shadowy sword, and other guy with magic crystal, which is super funny considering you would just assume that that's like a mage or something in the setting.
Yeah, that's not just like a literal scene.
Yeah,
that he has that. That's Dalinar.
That's Dalinar. Yeah, I don't know who these people are. I'm just saying,
and like that is my boy on the left.
I'm just saying from someone who doesn't know what's going on here. This is how this appears. Do they look interesting? Yes, I'll say they do. Do they look like their classes? Maybe.
No.
Maybe. You know,
I mean, they're different. They are different. They're different orders. However, one of them is not playable.
Yeah. But like, I couldn't tell you what these orders could do. I would say maybe guy on left here, is shadowy. Shadow magic, maybe death magic. Girl here, maybe magic swordsman person. I
would even say, like, if maybe she's like what is it, a geomancer? She's altering the stone behind
maybe, yeah. If you look really hard at the picture, you notice that. But like, you're gonna be drawn to the people and the weapons. And like, to the person in front here, like, that's gotta be a mage. It's gotta be a wizard dude or something, you know.
But yeah, which I mean is not what they are, and like it works for the idea of a classless system. It's not going to jump as hard to people who just have zero context for like who they are, the books, the setting, because like it is just the designs where I'm like, okay, that looks sick.
Yeah,
I'm really into that.
And this one is, again, it looks kind of good, though the guy does just look like he has some kind of Spartan armor. But there's dudes in armor flying in the background, which is kind of cool.
I think this is like a much more eye-catching piece, because like, if anything, the part that jumps out to me, again, it's like the Doom art, but it is a guy in like not full armor, where all around him is dudes in full plate shit, like flying around and fighting, and then there's this guy somehow like being swarmed and not overwhelmed. I mean, like, okay, he's special. This is like a named character. So he's built different. He has something cool to him. His sword looks cool. That's a very cool sword. Like, visually, this hits harder, but like, they're not going to use that for a cover because, you know, it doesn't have the characters on it.
Well, that's also just one of them. Also, I'll make mention of, again, the point I'm trying to draw out is like, when someone whole idea of fantasy is mostly just based off of like the Tolkien / D&D-esque like wizard, warrior, whatever, you know. It's really hard to discern what could be here. You could make a guess. You could very much make a guess. But your guess is definitely not going to be universally held when I could show a picture from like many of the different like D&D arts. And they're going to say, you know, like, oh, that dude's definitely a wizard or some kind of magic caster, maybe a sorcerer, you know. And
yeah, it just like hits different, like, and it's one of those bits where you can like 100% this is a problem. I would be very sad if it wasn't true to the designs of like the series, but I'm saying that as a fan of this series.
yes,
Like I love it. It's that balance you got to make too, because like trying to get into like the Lord of the Rings game without knowing a whole lot about Lord of the Rings, you can catch like some of the basic designs, but a lot of it's going to be, okay, that is a dwarf with a weapon, that is an elf archer, like kind of that is a soldier.
That's still recognizable to people.
It's
People
recognizable.
recognize them as like roles or classes or whatever, even if that's very like boiled down.
And it's like it's the designs of it being very accurate to the setting. I think will not jump out as hard as some of the I think pure 4 tabletop designs we've seen, because I'm hitting this with I think the Pathfinder Iconics do a really good job at like showing this is what the class is.
Yes, I agree.
And like representing it, and you can kind of like, except for maybe like the handful of like this is a different flavor of magic caster, you if you showed like all 6 of them in a lineup, maybe it'd be a little tough for a new player to like catch all of it. But like they still jump out at you with like a design, a vibe that you might like really latch onto. Oh, get that chatter out of here. Oh, you did it for me.
Yep, I did the thing. Didn't delete their message though. Don't know how to get rid of the message.
I don't know either.
Because I've seen you do it and you got rid of the messages before.
Every time I've done it, I just banned it.
Yeah.
I was a ban. I never like deleted it.
So weird. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Here's some more art, by the way. Really like it. Same dude from before. Same magic sword. Again, you could maybe guess some kind of class or some kind of fantasy from these characters. But you know,
it looks like a universe of like duelists almost. Like
it does. Yeah.
Magic sword.
Magic sword. Magic sword's huge. Now, if I open up like literally any of my Pathfinder 2 files and pick like just one at random. Here we go. Done. Oops. That's not it. Boom. And it's like, okay, this person for sure using magic, also has weapon, kind of cool, doing some big area thing, you know.
Like that's a great just like art piece. Granted, the other ones were also great art pieces, but that jumps out at you of like, oh, cool magic.
Guy fighting in a tavern, definitely a fighter, definitely something like that. Pull out another one. Boom. A small person riding a tiger, casting magic. This gotta be a druid or something. Like, I'm just picking some of these pictures mostly at random.
I think the 2 things that really hits well with tabletop art is it is specifically, you can look at something and be like, I want to play that, or you look at something and say, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 bits. I think Stormlight hits a lot harder with I want to do that, because but they got some action pieces. It's sick.
Yeah, but they're so, again, they have that 80s 90s like fantasy art, kind of like book art kind of style to them, where it's people doing kind of cool things, but they kind of just look like people, right? Where like a lot of the Pathfinder art, they're wearing crazier looking outfits, have magic glowing on them, or they're just like different races or, whatever. And it much more evokes a idea of playing something unique and cool and interesting versus what the Cosmere has, which is I'm interested in what the setting has to offer, but that's not necessarily like the same feeling as like, oh, I want to play this game. It's more like I'm interested in what this is about.
When like the Cosmere has a bunch of deep, really interesting, cool things. The difference for like a brand new person who's like looking to see if they want to pick up something is you have to read a little bit first to see how something is really interesting and cool. Because like all of those the orders that are on those, which are only present and like obvious to me because I know which order they all belong to, I'm like, ooh, yeah, what kind of crazy shit can they do mechanically? Where I think that how this is gonna hit with like Stormlight, maybe Mistborn, because I think the art for Mistborn setting that they're working on, I think it hits a little harder with the like, I want to be that, I want to do that. And that's just because some of the magic is really visually interesting, and the terrain is really interesting too. I think it's going to be a great game to be dragged into by your friends who are really into it.
Yeah, like here, I don't know if this is from the actual RPG. Maybe.
When you drag it on stream, I might recognize it.
Oh, this is from, it's called the Mistborn Adventure game.
That's a different tabletop game. It's a different
one, yeah.
There's an old one.
But I will grab it because it does, I think, make the point. Oop, that's a web. God damn it. All these web bullshit things.
And I can even send you a handful because I know where the Mistborn ones are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just pulling them offline. It's not too hard. It's just sometimes they're just not a very fun format, and I'm lazy and I don't have the thing. But here is like one of the Mistborn ones, right? This looks interesting. Cloak looks interesting. Magic stuff happening to the individual looking interesting. Like, I know roughly what's going on here, but for someone who doesn't, you don't need to know exactly what's going on here to appreciate how cool this looks and how interesting this individual looks.
I mean, even if you zoom out of that picture, because like the full piece is also like they are upside down. That landscape in the back, that is the top of like skyscrapers being built. So like those are he is flying upside down high above a city fighting somebody. And so like the whole thing, you're like, oh shit, okay.
I got another one that's very cool here as well. Let's see, browse. Where are you? There we go. So another individual. Well, it's actually, I think is the
same guy. It's the same guy.
But like something's happening. This looks really cool. This looks very actiony. This looks kind of magic-y fantasy. Like, this does generally make me a lot more interested in what's going on than many of the Stormlight pieces. And that's not to say Stormlight's bad. I'm not saying that. It's just fantasy appeal.
And it's going to depend on your taste. Because, like, for me personally, if I had to pick between fantasy designs, like I lean a little harder in
Kelsey.
The Stormlight style. Because I like me a good fantasy design that is kind of simple, grounded, like not anything outwardly spectacular. I love the Pathfinder art and like designs for their iconics and stuff. But I look at it, I'm like, that's sick. But my favorite of the Pathfinder iconics are the ones that are like simple. I like me some design minimalism, the stuff that still stands out. It's a lot harder to do that, 100%. But I think Pathfinder, I'd be really sad if Pathfinder didn't have the style it has. but it's going to land on like your preference. And I think in day and age, like especially a lot of younger fans getting into it, I think they're going to lean a lot harder into the crazier high fantasy art style.
Well, yeah, but it's not even necessarily just about like aesthetic appeal. It's about, if I'm looking into a game, I want the art to inform me what I can expect to some degree.
Oh yeah.
And from all the Cosmere images, I'm pretty sure I'm getting a sword. Maybe
Getting
some armor.
Maybe armor. A lot of like the cool art pieces is person in shard plate fighting a horde of enemies like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And it's like that is sick. There's other methods to play, and even like the fact that they made it so you can play a non-combat class and still like be viable.
Yeah.
Like you can not swing and still be sick and like really useful and good mechanically. But it's not expressed as hard. And maybe that'll change when we get a lot more of the art. But like I think the Stormlight Archives books are going to sell well for people who are into the books, which granted there are a lot of fans. They're very successful. But I think they did a great job at deciding to create world guides that are both good for people running the games or people who are fans and just want an art book.
Yeah.
And like lore book. Because that's where I'm also at. I want that dang Stormlight campaign setting thing.
Yeah.
I want that book.
And so, but see, that's the thing, right? Cosmere can do really, really well if influencers get behind it. Because
it's going to be a big push to like, hey, it's really sick. It's really cool. Just so like someone is more familiar. Because what you want to do is get people aware of some of the cool shit in it. So then when they pass by it in a store, they're like, oh, wait, I've heard of that.
So
and then you page through it.
Let me pitch to my audience right now why this TTRPG is good, right? So this has a dynamic class system where your character is able to kind of multi-class, and multi-classing is kind of like a huge point. And the classes range from like helpful utility, kind of more narrative-based class options, like being more like a rogue or someone who's really good at getting into buildings or someone who's really good at chatting with nobility and stuff like that, into other kinds of classes that can bend physics around them to do particular things in certain themes. Like there's a whole one based on gravity and sticking people to things, right? They're just all about reversing someone's gravity, flying around, and being able to like stick to walls and stuff like that. There's another one all about illusions and transforming objects from one type of matter to a different type of matter. And you get to mix these into a singular character who's unique and your own, who has skills that are not just bonuses to your dice rolls, but they allow you to just be good at a thing without needing to make a dice roll. If you are making an armor smith character and you have a specialization in smithing armor, you won't need to make a roll unless the thing you're trying to do is truly fantastic or difficult. So you can make armor, never have to worry about a nat one or anything at all. Your character can do it reliably and easily. And if you want to make a skill monkey who can do a lot of that kind of stuff, you can. That is what the Stormlight Archives game is going to present to you as like someone who doesn't know anything about Stormlight. That is the system. And if you want to play a complete non-combat character, they not only have paths for you to take, but they give you things to do that make that useful. And you are not just focused on leveling in this game, but you are also focused on participating in the narrative itself to gain things, because there are certain types of like pets or other types of features that you can't get through leveling up. You have to make it a part of your story, and they have a strong framework for that. That's the Cosmere RPG in general.
And like with how it even plays, I think for big tabletop fans, picture a D20 system with the good parts of Pathfinder taken into it. got good turn orders. It's what I like about it a lot too is it's got a really good collaborative storytelling style, with introducing aspects of the game to the GM and introducing it into the world, be it with like your actual like goals and stuff, or with their really good plot dice mechanic of, oops, something goes wrong, oops, something goes really good. So there's a lot of good collaborative storytelling, a really interesting combat system and turn system, and it truly is that part of like, man, they made D20 D&D style combat kind of good. There's good tactical planning and gameplay you can do without getting overwhelmed in a lot of minutia. They found a great balance.
I'm also going to make special mention, because now we're talking about the Cosmere RPG in general. Oh, it was the third most funded Kickstarter project of all time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I just found that on their website.
I didn't know that.
Yep, it is the third most ever. Not of TableTalk.
I'm happy to hear it.
But third ever. I'm trying to look, because I happen to know a little bit, some stuff about this, but, you know, I can't speak on anything much. But what I will say is that we will be having on this channel our live play of the Cosmere RPG for our, like, we'll probably do like a 10-15 sessioner on the channel where we're going to play the game. And we actually already have started with a one-shot, quote-unquote, a two-shot, more or less. So we're going to be playing that here. We're going to be trying out all the rules. And that should be coming towards the end of July.
I could have sworn it was Critical Role, not also Sanderson's other Kickstarter projects.
Oh, the first is also Sanderson? That's funny.
Yeah, because there's the it was the funding goal for the Leatherbound, I'm pretty sure is what it was. And because of the funding of the Leatherbound, that's what made the secret projects. It's very funny.
Yeah, it's the number one games project and the number 3 most funded Kickstarter of all time.
I could have sworn it was the Critical Role show. If that might be the second one. That'd be number 2. I know that one made a stupid amount. But yeah, like I also like the description for people who are aware of tabletop games of like, it is really if Fantasy Flight Star Wars 5th edition and Pathfinder had a baby and the baby turned out well adjusted and good.
Yeah, gotta make sure you mention the baby also turned out well adjusted, so no worries.
Yeah, like they went to a good school. They had a good parentage.
The secret projects, they were number 1.
Oh, okay. They were different. But yeah, like, you know, you get D&D in the mix, you gotta worry, is that an absentee parent maybe didn't pay child support? But no, it turned out great.
So, you know, like, the Cosmere is gonna be a good game. I'm thoroughly going to enjoy it.
Same.
Number 2 is a smartwatch.
I'm so excited. Oh.
I thought Critical Role did really, really well. Did they not? Let's see.
I'm also looking it up.
Role.
Most funded on the Kickstarter website. Let's see. Oh yeah, the top one is Surprise 4 Secret Novels by Brandon Sanderson. UV printer. Holy shit. That's a newer one, I guess. Or unless that might be an ad. Oh, the coolest cooler. I remember that.
So it was the most funded Kickstarter in history for TV and film projects.
Yeah, it is insanely high funded.
And it was also the most quickly funded Kickstarter in history.
Frosthaven is also one of the highest funded things, which is the sequel to Gloomhaven.
It's Gloomhaven. I gotta play that.
That's sick. I'm surprised we haven't tried it.
Because we haven't beaten Gloomhaven.
The true fair. It's a lot. I don't have a lot of gas in the tank to play Gloomhaven. I like it, but it's a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I know that Cosmere is going to be really good. And my hope and dream is that enough people talk about it, that people look into it and try it out, because it's literally like D&D in the way that it's really easy to get into. You don't have to do a lot of crazy character creation stuff. Character creation is super simple. Yeah.
It's super fun, easy too. Like, I just enjoy how they set everything up. It's so quick. It's so fun. It's got the style of character creation I enjoy, which is it's really, really valid to just make a character at level 1 and see where they go. Like, I always really enjoy that in a game. I think it's a good way to learn it. I think that if you have a game that forces you to like plan out everything to minutia, there's fun in that. But I think it's a stronger system if you can introduce a new player at level 1. Their character builds over time because you get that feeling of like incremental strength improvement in characterization. I think that is like a really good design element to lean into. So like I'm pumped. And also, yeah, I'm also looking forward to the new series. There's a book that's coming out this year, soonish, I think, Isles of the Emberdark. And then eventually, when he finishes writing all 3 of the Mistborn Era 3 books, that's when they'll start dropping. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for Cyberpunk Mistborn. It's going to be sick.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. And so, like, I'm going to be talking about it because I just am really excited about this game and I really want to try it out. And it's going to make it hard because, again, I have a baby and I know there's all the Pathfinder people who want me to make Pathfinder content. Which, I'm sorry, I did say I was going to make it when I had the chance. But I haven't had the chance. I literally, most of my days are wake up at 6 in the morning, see my wife off to work, and then hold a baby for 10 hours. And then spend the remaining part of my day doing chores or working on game projects or just relaxing because I just spent 10 hours holding a baby who's teething now. I love goals too. Actually, goals is something I stole for my game. I think goals system is really interesting.
Good system. It is the part where it's a game eventually I want to try out for myself. Though I feel like I'd have to get an appreciation for Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar Soulbound has a genuinely really sick character system. And all the level ups in like experience gain stuff is done strictly through goals. And I think they do it really well of promoting both campaign goals and character goals, so things are just moving forward. And a lot of times when you're coming up with goals, you want to aim for one to be completed every like 2-3 sessions. Like you want them to be literal short form goals involved with your arc, to be involved. It's just mechanically incentivizing you to make a character that gives a shit about what's going on. And I like that. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting.
The characters are sick. Like you can just they really represent all of the like playable like factions aligned with order, like good. They embody it super well. And all of them have very unique traits, abilities, spells, play styles. Like they're all unique, which is sick. No classes, but just like you build something from a faction.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing like about the Cosmere. You kind of touched on that before, but the heroic paths I love because
I love them.
They're not so like, it's not like in any other kind of TTRPG where you kind of have a class and then you kind of branch out from that class after you get started. And it's not like D&D where you can just kind of like mash all the cool parts of classes together to make like your character. And you do it mostly that way, just not because of anything other than it's just really strong to do it that way. But in this game, you can make such truly unique characters. Even if your characters go down the same heroic paths, you could be very different based on what subpaths you take, what particular options you select, and what other paths you decide to take. And it changes not only just like your aesthetics, but like how you actively play the game. I was just about to look up the beta to talk about some of the stuff, and they don't have the beta open anymore. You can't use the beta.
Yeah,
I have the
part I
PDF,
enjoy.
but it doesn't have the class stuff on it.
No, yeah, it's a thing I enjoy the most because like it's somewhat similar. It's why I'm happy they took inspiration from the Fantasy Flight Star Wars, where like you build yourself like it's a big old category of abilities and you build yourself from it. You're going to make very diverse, interesting characters. And then they're incentivizing because the Star Wars game doesn't hit this as hard. It's harder to multi-class in that system, if I'm remembering correctly. But like actually being able to super easily and freely multi-class and multi-classing is just a good idea. Because like some of those, like just the first level talent of a skill tree is really useful and good. Like there's a good reason you'd want to dip into like warrior if you're doing any fighting.
Right.
And like it incentivizes the part I like about Stormlight and what they've talked about in their dev interviews of they want to make it so your characters can be multifaceted and have it to like, yeah, sure, you can be a warrior, but there's nothing stopping you from speccing into like scholar to grab some medical stuff.
Yeah.
So now you know like battlefield medicine really well. They're like it make yourself a character that's built to like what you want them to be. And as someone who's like that is my direct character creation style, I try to hit for like especially longer games. Like I naturally will play the character to like what they are, who they are, and it's a system that will reward you for making a person that exists in the world and like in your campaign and in your GM's like mind. You make it a character that's established there. And you play them true, you're going to have a lot of benefits with the goals, rewards, and the class system. It is a role player's dream class system. That is how I always how I kind of look at it.
And like, and then the Radiant, which everyone is going to want to be a Radiant, right? It's kind of just like being a Jedi.
Yeah.
What I really like about the Radiants is they gain new skills that allow them to use their powers, essentially. So if you are playing a Windrunner, for instance, you get Adhesion or Gravity. So you can use, essentially, Adhesion and Gravity as a skill check, which is really interesting. You don't get that in any other kind of tabletop system, right? Because, you know, in, like, Pathfinder, for instance, you don't get a magic skill. You get Arcana, and sometimes that can be represented as like doing magic of some kind or fiddling with magic or of some kind, but you can't, like, for instance, levitate a orb with pure magic. You have to use a spell of some kind or form. Well, in Stormlight, you could levitate an orb with a skill check if one was deemed necessary, you know. And with each of the different orders and the different surges that they deal with, like, I'm very interested to see how division is going to work as a skill.
I'm really excited to learn how transportation is going to be used as a skill.
Yeah.
Just, there's going to be some such cool things. It's sick. Like, I enjoy the fact it's a power system where your character has a power, and now it is like, all right, think of ways to apply the power to your like everyday life.
Yeah.
Because that's also a theme of the books. Like, it is a thing of like, you kind of rely on your abilities, and the moment you're without it, you're like, ah, fuck, how did I live without my magic?
Yeah. Because like Adhesion is such a good one to represent as a skill, right? Because it's just like, I want to climb this wall, but I have Adhesion. And James like, okay, you go ahead and make an Adhesion check against it, and I'll reduce the DC because, you know, you're literally sticking to the wall. Where, like, another character would have to make, like, an athletics check to climb the wall, you know. And that allows you to be differentiated from everyone else because not every order has Adhesion. So your character is going to be able to do something. I mean, to be fair, you can normally fly, so when would you climb? But maybe in the situation where flying isn't good, stormy weather, something like that, storms, very big part of the setting.
I mean, if you're a edge dancer, you can't. Because that one is adhesion and cohesion, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like they can't fly, but
They
if
can't
you have
fly.
one of the two orders that can fly, you have a different way around it.
Yeah.
If you got transformation, I don't know, make yourself a staircase, dog.
They're definitely going to have
like,
rules for breaking your O's, because they did mention that in one of their chats. They're like, oh yeah, there are some stuff, and it will be hard because technically you can also have multiple O's.
Yeah, which is a thing. That is a thing that's been word of Brandon like a while ago.
Yeah.
That you can technically have like two Spren at the same time. It's just the thing of a Spren usually won't seek somebody out who already has a bond, because like they'd rather bond a different person.
Yeah. But that stuff's going to be in the Spren rules, which we don't have yet. But when we do, that's going to be really, really cool, because Spren are very interesting.
Super interesting. That is the part I am going to enjoy the most, I feel like, is getting a understanding of your power to try to apply it in a broad sense. Like, how can I utilize this in my day-to-day? Like, how can I live with magic? And I think you can do a lot of cool shit with it. And I'm so excited with the system in general. It's going to be so sick. And funny, I'm thinking about it too, of like an example power I like to show off, because it's similar to what you're saying with the adhesion. I like pointing at gravitation, because I think it is a power that, maybe it's just me, when I first was like reading it, I was like, oh, I want to play this in like a tabletop game. How could I do this in a tabletop game? And like the one I'll show, which is also by Brotherwise Games, I like to show people the fight with Zeth in book 1, like right at the beginning. And it's from the Brotherwise game, the Call to Adventure expansion, of Zeth on the wall cutting through 2 soldiers.
Yeah.
And that is just such a good, piercing image of like, oh shit, what is happening here? Like, this is sick. And then you can point at that and be like, hey, you can do this. Like, this is playable. That's a great action piece to be like, I want to do that. I want to play that. And also the Brotherwise art, like the Brotherwise art, especially for Call to Adventure, they slap so hard.
Yeah. The Blackthorn.
Yeah.
That's one image I think about a lot.
The Squire rules are going to be fun.
Yeah, Squires are going to be interesting. They do. So from generally what I know, players are going to be mostly the ones responsible for their spell.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Like a good method of getting the players interested in like building a small crew of characters.
Yeah, Squire rules are going to be super interesting. I'm not
as into Squires, but like that for people who want like a team.
Right, yeah. And I don't know. We kind of like I knew the second we started talking about Cosmere, we'd be talking about Cosmere for quite a while.
It's a cool game.
It's going to be really good. But to kind of bring around the point, this summer is going to be massive for TTRPGs in general, because we're now just entering into the stage where like D&D is just kind of dead. Like, the content creators, like if I go onto YouTube and I type in sorry, I saw something and I was going to speak on it, but best not. If I type in D&D right now, doesn't the GM need to RP the spread? Nope. Not necessarily.
Up to the table, I think multiple people will have preferences, because I personally like having, if I have a tied in familiar, I do like the GM running it, but that's just because I am I'm a very method acting like role player. So it is harder for me to jump between two entities I control and play, like the personality of, than like me bouncing off of one. It's harder on the GM though, which is also a thing I understand. So it's going to depend on the table, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I type in D&D, right? D&D content creators feels dated. I don't think so. I think if you watch D&D content, they wouldn't feel dated. I mean, well, yeah, that's the thing, right? For people who watch them, it's much more important, obviously, because you're not going to watch a channel that you just aren't interested in anymore. But there's just not a lot of new stuff that the algorithm is really delivering to me at the moment. The most I'm seeing, lots of Legends of Adventurous because they've just been blowing up for their shorts. Lots of D&D music lists. And then lots of like D&D and politics with Brennan Lee Mulligan, which is not technically D&D, it's just tabletop, but they're just using D&D as a catch-all, you know. There's just not a lot of new things that are really being shown to me that are about the game at all, that are like at all recent. And the things I'm finding are a lot of D&D related channels like Bonus Action, Bob World Builder, Ginny D, talking about Daggerheart. And if I was to do like let's talk Monster Hunter, because Monster Hunter is like had a big thing recently, but like it's now a couple months old, right? So if I type in Monster Hunter, I'm getting videos that are very recent or currently live. By the way, Curious Archives did another biology series for Monster Hunter, which if you don't know Curious Archive, really, really good channel. Love their content. But it's just a bunch of things about recent going-ons, everything happening, people talking about it, people enjoying it. The likes, the dislikes, everything. This feels fresh. This feels like it's currently being touched. So by the algorithm I'm currently using my YouTuber channel. So like the only things I watch are D&D content or tabletop content related, roughly. The algorithm doesn't find any value in that stuff other than like big things from the past. So people who are getting into tabletop stuff are going to want to look up videos, are going to want to look up how to do things, and they're going to find a lot of stale content. And they're also going to find big D&D content creators talking about other games like Daggerheart and probably Pathfinder here very soon, and maybe even the Cosmere. So I think a lot of people this summer, especially, you know, children, mostly ones in the like 10 to 18 range, maybe 12 to 18 range. I don't know how early kids are going to each other's houses and playing games anymore. Are going to just get introduced to other tabletop games because D&D is just stale.
Yeah. You know, honestly, which thank you, Andrew Downing, for mentioning this in the chat. Talking about the Plot Weaver system. I just looked that up because I'm like, oh, what's Plot Weaver? That is the core system of the Cosmere RPG.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Andrew just said.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it's just that, you know, they have a license where it's like, yeah, you can just use these rules. Like, it's like their version of an OGL.
Yep.
You can use them, just you cannot use any of the Dragonsteel IP. I think they should make just a general epic fantasy, like high fantasy setting for it. They should make like the general version of it, try to hit that D&D audience. Because if you have that aspect, you have that aspect where it's going to attract a lot of people with like the striking fantasy designs, like literally what we were saying like way earlier of how you kind of draw players in art wise and design wise. then you can have a lot of players be like, oh, it's like D&D. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, there's versions of this that use like cool books. Like, what's this setting? What's this setting? It's the same game. It's just different settings. Like, all right, let's look into this. That is a cool thing I think they should do. They should make a really good general system because I know the Star Wars one did it. I need to look into that system.
They plan to do that in 2026. Yeah. So like, I think this is the summer where like the tabletop historians will look back at and they'll say this is the part where everything really started to change. You know, they'll probably actually say that about after the D&D 2024 release, where it was just kind of dead on arrival.
Yeah, I look forward to looking back 10 years from now and seeing how the landscape has changed. Because like, it's sick. It's real fun. We got a lot of cool shit. I think the next big step though to make things like even better, I think is going to be investing in really good VTT stuff. I think what Foundry is working on right now is probably the first step in that direction of making like, you want to take a lot of the umbrage off of people to set up, plan, get around everything, and have like, oh, basically my GM is filling out stuff and we're basically running like a video game like every week that like is written by all of us, written by the GM. And the more automated systems in place, I think is going to help a lot more people play campaigns that they might not have before. I have to look into Genesis specifically because I really like the Fantasy Flight Star Wars games, but I hate Star Wars. I was in a game with people and the game was so much fun, but I don't care about that setting at all, like deeply. So a generalized version of that appeals to me more.
I've heard good things about Genesis. There's also the Cypher system to look into as well. There's a lot of like good games / systems that have been kind of bouncing around for the last like handful of years, or more.
And I like it specifically in the age we're kind of growing into, of what feels like the response to, I believe, the overcorrection of streamlining your game. Because we went through that. We went through the like, oh, 5e did really well because they streamlined. Let's streamline all of our games. And some went way too hard and took a lot of the parts that make your game interesting. And now we're getting a lot of designers be like, hey, guess what? This game has rules. This game has a bit of crunch to it. And people are like, yes, please, yes. So I think we're getting to a fun line. And I wouldn't be surprised as we go down maybe, I don't know, 10 years, if we're at the age of like, we've kind of cycled back into a very fun era of like the 80s and 90s tabletop games where this is like overly complicated Excel spreadsheet bullshit. I think that'd be fun if we cycle, but that is just how things work. A lot of times it's just a trend happens, it goes way too hard, and then the response is to go in the opposite direction, and then that goes too hard, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see if like, are we gonna have games just getting more complex as like the years go on?
Yeah. So it's definitely it's definitely a really good time for the TTRPG scene. There's a lot going on, and D&D did what D&D needed to do, which is drop the ball pretty much. Like, the crazy thing about all of this is if Dungeons and Dragons had just kept actually making a game and actually like gave a little bit of a shit about it, everything would just be overshadowed. There wouldn't be a lot of room for anything else because, you know, it just has that much of the marketplace. It still has that much of the marketplace. It could still come back and fuck things up, and no one is scared of them doing that because they have not given us an ounce of credibility that they would, you know?
Yeah.
And I, especially with the ever expanding VTT space and the general idea of tabletop kind of just becoming more of a common household thing, I do think we are very much going to be in for a big like indie renaissance for tabletop coming here pretty soon. Like, there's still gonna be the big games that are gonna come out. I think Pathfinder is gonna start picking more and more people up as time goes by, because that's just like the natural fall off point. But I feel like, you know, Orbital Dropkick with their variety of crazy games, plus Lancer being such a beloved game series, is going to also pick a lot of people up. I think, you know, I think Daggerheart is actually going to pick up a fair amount of people, you know? Like, it's weird to be like, I don't think D&D is going to die or not become the main game anymore, but everyone else is just going to be doing better respectively, right?
Yeah. I genuinely think, D&D is going to have a ridiculous amount of staying power, even if like they essentially just drop it. Like, there's not making new stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of people still playing D&D, and I could very much see, at least for a while, D&D is still the entry point for a lot of people, where a lot of people, their first tabletop game is D&D, and then they jump to the many different really cool options opening up more and more and more. Because we're just at that stage of like, if you have a thing you enjoy, you have a vibe, a style, like a taste, you probably can find it in a tabletop game right now. There's so many interesting vibes being made. I mean, Orbital Dropkick's hitting it really well. Of like, yeah, do you want to play like a kind of Chainsaw Man analog horror type tabletop game? Here you go.
Yeah.
Like, you want to play because you want to play a insane heavy metal like neon purple pink setting? Here you go. I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that era where D&D is just actually like the gateway drug. People play for a couple of years and then jump to something else, because it's just like, oh, hell yeah, we had fun with this. Let's try something else. That's what I want. I just want people to be like, I want a lot more players to have the opportunity to become variety players.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a genuine lens into it, keeping in that idea of like, there are casual players who like, maybe they only get to play D&D like once a month. And like, that's when their group all gathers around when they don't all cancel because they're busy. I think the more we get tools to make their jobs easier running a game, I think we're going to get more people willing to try new things.
Yeah, and I feel like also the more tabletops evolve to be more easy to run, and not in necessarily like a dumbed down kind of way, but just we're making better systems that are make it easier to do what GMs normally do. Like, for instance, like things like evolving plots. You know, we have a lot of games that are coming out now that are making systems that already like naturally lead to an evolving plot through the use of various systems. Like stuff like that, where people can just make more interesting games at base because they are just like built into the system a little bit better, and a lot more of the work is offloaded from the GM. We're just going to get people who are going to be doing this more casually, more fun.
Yeah. And like, I think there's that difference of like, my game is easy to learn, but it isn't simple. Because I genuinely think the Cosmere is on that list of like, this is a system easy to learn, but there's depth to it. There's like stuff you can do, choices you can make that have like a skill level you can get better at. But if you look at a game like Shadowrun, that is a game that is difficult to learn because it's set up really complicated. It just inherently makes like forces you to do certain things and like have to learn its systems as you brush up against like, oh, you threw a grenade, like literally like that. So it is there's the balance that we're hitting, and it's what happens when like an industry has been iterated on and designed for like 50 years. It's just everything is building off of itself and like going farther and farther and farther as we learn. It's the same thing with game design. You just like you learn how it's done, you look at the things before you, you were inspired by how something was done before you, and you take it and try to see what else you can do with it.
So yeah, I think I think it's something that this summer is going to feel very impactful, and I feel like this is also going to really invigorate a lot of people in the tabletop scene as well to start producing and making more content. And I think more importantly than anything, we're going to just start seeing more money in the tabletop scene that's not just falling into the empty void of Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro's pockets.
Yes. I want to see financial success for smaller indie game like tabletop devs or small companies. I want to see it profitable for people if you can enter.
Because
I want that reality of like one guy makes a game like Baltro, now explodes in popularity, has a lot more money that they can play with and like do stuff with. I want that for tabletop.
Yeah, for real. I mean, like, because we see it in Paizo. Paizo, the more successful Paizo gets over the years, the more stuff they just do with their product. They come out with new games. They have a new book series. They have just endless amount of player content that just comes out. And by the way, Andrew, they have another core book coming out here soon called Battlecry, which is introducing 2 new classes and a lot more mechanics based on battlefields and using troops and stuff like that. They're also coming out with Starfinder 2nd edition, so, you know, more star sci-fi fantasy stuff. So
I'm so excited for both. Yeah, it's I especially even if you're a smaller like indie team or like a solo dev making a game, like if they blow up, they kind of do the same thing Pathfinder does, because like you explode in popularity, you have a fuck ton of money now. You can look at that pile of money, be like, well, I'm set. Like well, we have to pay like 3 people. All right, we're set, I guess. As long as we just periodically do something, we can now like spend that time that maybe we'd be working a second job or anything. Now we can just devote our time to making this, and we can just do more with it. The same things happening with the Trench Crusade folks. Like I'm really happy to see it, because like it was literally designed in their spare time using ideas that the actual companies they worked for wouldn't let them do. Because like one of the main artists for the games, like he did a bunch of work on Path of Exile and Diablo, and a lot of the designs in Trench Crusade are based off of what he was given notes of not to put in, because that's too far. That's a little too gross or extreme. And like they gave a talk recently too about like their unexpected explosion of popularity and income, where now they're like, well, this could be our job. Like we didn't want it to be at first, but now like I guess we can just do this. I want more devs to have that.
yeah, and so in talking about the possible dividing creators and too much blah blah blah, sorry, I don't mean to diminish what you were saying. It was just more text, etc., etc. is probably what I should have said more. I mean, popularity isn't determined by how many people are working on a product. It's about what product grabs people's attention. It's kind of just like indie gaming in general. And so there's not going to be a period of where nothing feels popular, because people are going to naturally gravitate towards something, you know. either because other people are playing it, it's got a big community, or probably more commonly content creators are just talking about it more, and content creators are really good at finding out the thing that people are the most interested in. So there's not really ever going to be a point where there's too many TTRPGs and nothing feels popular. It's just they're going to be the popular TTRPGs and there's going to be the indie ones, and that's pretty much it.
We're seeing it. It's because like just playing a tabletop game and getting invested in it is just a high degree of effort, because it's just the cultural shift I can see changing as time goes on. And because it's like with video games, it's like you have the people that like all they play is Call of Duty or League of Legends or like Rocket League, like that's all they play.
Yeah.
And then you have the people that do play that, but they also like these genres, they play these things, they get the new releases, and it's going to be a culture shift. I can see in the future people being like, oh, I'm a tabletop fan, instead of saying, oh yeah, I'm playing D&D. Like, that's the difference, I think. And I want to see that difference, because more variety play is healthy. It's moving away from a time where maybe I still use it for people because I just don't want to provoke the conversation. I just tell people I'm playing D&D. I'm not.
Yeah.
Not the slightest, but it's what they'll understand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I tell people all the time. I make content based on games like D&D. Is what I say.
Yeah.
More often than
not. It's super easy.
It's Band-Aid. It's the Band-Aid of tabletop.
Yeah, I forget the word for it, but there's the word of like a brand being the substitute name for like a thing. It's when something turns into a verb or like the noun, it's also bad for a company. But like for gaming, it's kind of easier because like Nintendo isn't going to be upset that you're calling all video games Nintendo, because that means you're going to be looking at specifically Nintendo, especially if you aren't informed at all about like what video games are. Because grandma just like, oh, you're playing your Nintendo and you're on an Xbox, and you just are like, yeah, yep, love my Nintendo.
Yeah. Granted, I don't think people would say Nintendo as much as like Xbox or PlayStation in the States.
That was me growing up, the era, like that petered out. Because like it's petered out now because playing video games is a much bigger thing. Like it's become more culturally relevant. Right now, still, D&D is like the cultural touchstone for people who don't do the hobby. Because it's so front and center. Much like it used to be just Nintendo and Sega.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's exciting. It's super exciting at the time we're at right now, because I mean, to be fair, I've been calling it for years, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I've been saying this almost since the beginning of TableTalk, that all we need is a whale fall. All we need is for tabletop to just get some games out, and we just need D&D to like fuck up. That's it, you know. And like, I still think D&D is important, and I don't want D&D to disappear. I think it's healthy to have a touchstone that people recognize. And while the company is definitely shitty, every company eventually becomes shitty if they get big enough. So, you know.
I kind of, if anything, the outcome I do want to see is I want to see D&D at least still be present. And if possible, I'd love it if they could separate from Hasbro in some regard, because like I would love D&D to be taken up by a bunch of passionate devs who
for sure
really care, grew up like with D&D, like that's a presence of them that's very influential, and they get to iterate 6th edition. Like that's what I want. I mean, that's actually happening to a degree with White Wolf right now, because White Wolf recently got itself more independence from Paradox. So now White Wolf Publishing exists again for the first time, and I think like 12 years? I forget whenever the Paradox purchase happened, because like then they were fully like, this is a Paradox product, and it's one of the failings of 5th edition World of Darkness stuff is it feels very corporate. Like it's kind of fallen off, and now they're their own thing again. They have their own degree because of Bloodlines 2 being such a disaster development cycle for Paradox, to the point where they said they don't want to make RPGs ever again. But you know, now they're going to be publishing their own stuff, like making it in-house and publishing it on their own accord. Just they have some Paradox money now. I would love to see D&D have that.
Yeah.
It'd be a sad day if it was just gone and like they were just like, all right, brand's dead, see ya.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it under lock and key so no one can touch it. But fuck you. Bye.
There's never gonna be a D&D thing. You have to wait 100 years if you want to use it. Bye.
Right.
What's up?
So it's I want indie tabletop. I want this summer to be the summer. And the thing is like we're just not gonna know. We're not gonna know until like this fall or next year. How successful this summer is.
We're gonna have to look back on everything.
Because, like, especially with the YouTube algorithm, when the YouTube algorithm loses track of something, it's really hard for it to get back into the public eye, There are parts of the D&D particularly that do still, like, come up on the algorithm whenever they show up, especially when it's more involved with, like, things like Dimension 20 or Brennan Lee Mulligan, really, honestly, himself, or Critical Role. But we could see it do better if people start looking up stuff on Daggerheart, because that's what other content creators are making content on, right? It's something where we could get the algorithm on our side if people make the content and people are actually like looking up for that content, because I do think a lot of kids this summer are going to be playing tabletop games. I do, because they're gonna have more free time than ever to do so, and it's a thing that people are talking about, and I guarantee there's already a lot of kids who are already somewhat interested in it. So this is the summer of, okay, D&D kind of flopped. People not talking about it. What's this other thing that favorite content creator, Jacob Buds from XP to Level 3 was talking about? What's Pathfinder? Or what's Daggerheart that, favorite content creator Jenny D or Bob World Builder or whoever, are talking about? Like, and we'll see. It's crazy how much hobbies really live or die based on the whims of people who can't legally drink. But that's just the world we live in when it comes to people who have too much free time and access to mom and dad's money. But yeah, so fingers crossed. But I do think, honestly and completely, this summer is going to have a lot of beneficial turns for tabletop. Cosmere RPG is coming out soon, and we will be checking it out here on the channel. Battlecry is going to be here, and hopefully I'll get to look into that. Hopefully I'll have the time. Like, it's been a crazy good, like, 6+ months for tabletop, because D&D 2024 bombed so hard because they just released the same game again with some tweaks. And now everyone's confused at what's going on because they didn't call it 5.5.
I mean, it doesn't help that they literally made the name 2024 like a couple months before 2025.
Yeah, I know.
It's so dumb.
It's really dumb.
They should have, if anything, just call it 2025. Just call it that.
Just stuck with one D&D or something,
One D&D is better. Like, one D&D is a better name.
It is, because you're not associating it with a year or anything.
Yeah. If I hear one D&D, I'm immediately like, okay, that is like everything we've done with D&D up to this point. Like, it's like a remaster, a recreation. That's what I immediately think, which is what they stated the intention was. And I don't know who decided to be a good idea to change the name 3 other times.
Yeah, it's
so dumb.
I don't know. Here's our shitting on D&D hour.
Yes. We gotta. I'll go crazy if I don't.
It's tragic how poorly D&D has been run on up until this point. And honestly, to the point of like any goodwill I had to the prior creators, I just don't have anymore, because they could have done something. I have to imagine they could have done something,
I'd love it if they talked, like, I mean, I don't know, did a big interview about like looking back on their time with Wizard of the Coast and like just actually tell us why things went the way they did.
Yeah.
Because that's what I would do if I was stuck in that position, not able to say anything because of corporate meddling. I would directly put that on blast right after. Be like, all right, I'm not beholden to this company or IP anymore. Scorched earth, fuck it. It's these guys' fault. Like, they did it. But I am, if anything, I'm looking forward to seeing, because what I like paging through the Scion Unearthed Arcana, that looks like a class with mechanics. It has stuff in it. It looks kind of like, all right, it's still, you know, 5th edition, not my preference, but like I could see myself playing that if I get to a D&D game. So like I hope we get more stuff like that. Whoever's leading the charge right now. I whoever is currently taking up their positions, I hope they care.
Me too. Yeah, I do wish the bigger content creators would jump ship, you know. It's hard when your livelihood is at stake, but honestly, if your livelihood is based on D&D, you really should be trying to make moves now, because your income's just going to start dying slowly more and more as time goes on. The algorithm is just
tough.
dropping D&D content, so.
And YouTube is very hit or miss on if they let you become a variety person.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I just kind of have equal performance, except with something pops off that I can do variety lore.
Equal performance looks at
it's
Trench Crusade.
I hit it at the right time. I've made Trench Crusade videos after that. They have not done as well. So like there was timing, and like I'm happy to put that in as like I'm a variety lore content creator like early, because if I got stuck in that rut of making one thing like only 40k for the rest of my life, I would die. I would go insane. I part of my upload schedule is me taking a break from reading about a series too much, because I'm like I'm starting to hate the idea of a space marine, and I'm like, abort, let's talk about vampires. And now I still love 40k. I'm not tired of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I also like trying to talk about other things as well, because like I like Pathfinder. I just don't want to be only a Pathfinder channel.
Yeah,
you know, unless they paid me a lot of money, and then I would.
Yeah, that's the big kicker. If you get a lot of money through it. But
I got a wife and kid. I got mouths to feed.
Well, you just got to do a slop drama like tabletop news. Just do that.
Yeah, I just gotta keep saying, and it just got worse, and then I'll get there. But yeah, I think that'll be it for us today. I think if you enjoy tabletop and you don't like D&D, this is gonna be a great summer. If you do like D&D, hey, at least Ember Forge comes out soon, or I mean, Eberron the Forge or whatever that's
if
called.
You like D&D, at least there's a handful of D&D inspired things that are coming out.
True.
That's kind of all I can give you for hope, but you know.
Well, Andrew, you're gonna be lucky, because I'm gonna be making a lot more Cosmere content. Guaranteed, I'm going to be making a lot more. So, you know, look forward to it. But yeah, that's gonna be it for us. Anything you want to leave us off with, Alex, before we head out?
Yeah, like I kind of just briefly said, I do tabletop lore content. A lot of fun subjects like Warhammer 40k, Vampire the Masquerade, Trench Crusade, anything I think sounds fun. And coming up real soon, I have a video on Nosferatu in Vampire the Masquerade, which they are really interesting, to the point where I'm making another video related on them because I started reading and I was like, oh, this is sick. So, yeah, my channel is Glue Boy. Go over there, subscribe. A video will be coming out soon.
Yep. And as for me, stuff is coming. Videos are still probably going to be on a slight hiatus for a bit, but stuff is coming. I am working on some really cool stuff in the background. So it's going to be really good times, and you know, my daughter's getting older, and so she will hopefully have an ounce more of independence so that I can start working on projects again, because right now I just have zero time So, but other than that, we're just going to keep having our weekly videos, our weekly live plays, and table talk. So stay tuned if you want to get the news. But for that, after that, we're going to go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.